Hello everyone. Welcome to today's session on Documentary Letter of Credit, which is Unit 4 in Bank Financial Management. We have already covered the portion of Letter of Credit. We have gone through the introduction, how an letter of credit is being applied for, and what are the operations and the process flow of a letter of credit. Now we will be going into the portion of Uniform Customs and Practices for Documentary Credits, the UCPDC. Welcome to Brilliant Bankers, your go-to channel for IIBF specialization exams. So what is UCPDC? The UCPDC stands for Uniform Customs and Practice for Documentary Credits. It is a set of international rules and guidelines developed by International Chamber of Commerce to standardize and regulate the letters of credit in international trade. Letters of credit are financial instruments commonly used in international trade transactions, as explained earlier in the previous video, to provide a secure method of payment between a buyer and a seller. They serve as a guarantee from the buyer's bank to the seller, assuring the seller that they will receive payment as long as they fulfill the terms and conditions specified in the letter of credit. The UCPDC provides a comprehensive framework for the issuance, negotiation, and utilization of LC. It addresses various aspects of the LC process, including the responsibilities of the parties involved, examination of documents, handling of discrepancies, and more. The UCPDC is periodically updated to reflect changes in international trade practices and legal standards. 2007, and which is UCP 600, which came into effect in July 1, 2007, replacing the previous version UCP 500. Now, what is UCP 600? It was formed in the ICC International Chamber of Commerce meeting that was held in Paris, appointing a task force after approval of a banking committee in 2003 to undertake revision of the UCP 500. The task force, after working for over 3 years, prepared a draft of a new UCP. The drafting group constituted members from 9 countries, which had 15 meetings before the draft of the UCP was finalized. The draft was referred to national committees, including ICC India, and key issues were identified, taking into the account various ICC opinions, the DOCDEC decisions. What is a DOC? It's Documentary Credit Dispute Resolution Expertise. Documentary Credit Dispute Resolution Expertise. The DOCDEC decisions, court decisions, etc. And it was brought into force in 1st July 2007. Coming to the futures of UCP 600. The UCP 600 was a major review in the history of uniform rules for documentary credits. It is leaner with only 39 articles compared to the 49 in the previous version, that is UCP 500. While some of the earlier version were deleted, some of the articles were merged and a few new articles were added in the newer version of UCP 600. The major thrust was on a simplified language of the article so that each and every person can understand the articles easily by reading. Grouping of articles. How are the articles grouped in the UCP 600? Article 1 to 5, it tells about the definitions, interpretations, independence of LCs, and the underlying contracts. 6 to 10 is about the availability, expiry date and place, obligations of issue and confirming bank, advising credits, and the amendments in the letter of credit. Article 11 to 7 is regarding the pre-advised credits, about the nominated bank, about the reimbursement arrangements, about complying presentations and the original documents. Article 18 is about the commercial invoice. 19 to 27 mentions about the transport documents that are to be maintained with in the LC. Article 28 is about the insurance of the documents. Article 29 to 33 mentions about the extension, the tolerance, partial and installment drawings, and hours of presentation. Article 34 to 37 is about the disclaimers, and Article 38 and 39 is about the transferability and assignment of proceeds in the letter of credit process. What are the changes and the implications of UCP 600 on the banks? The main implication changes and the implications of UCP 600 on the banks. The first one is on the electronic communication records. So we will be going it on a topic wise study. What are the changes and the implications? Coming to the electronic communication records, the change in UCP 600 was recognized the increasing use of the electronic records and allowed for the use of electronic data, records, and signatures. So what was the implication to the banks? Banks needed to adapt to the use of electronic documentation and ensure that they had the necessary infrastructure and processes in place to handle the electronic communication. Coming to the second point, the examination of documents. The change brought in was UCP 600 clarified the process of document examination and emphasized that banks must examine documents on their face value only without the need of further verification. The implication that happened for the banks, where it was reminded of the importance on relying on the documents presented and not getting involved in the underlying transactions or disputes. This streamlined the process and reduced potential delays in the LC process. Discrepant documents. The change that brought in. UCP 600 provided clear options for the issuing bank in case of discrepancies. They could either reject the documents outright to seek the applicant's consent, to accept them despite the discrepancies. The implications for the bank was they needed to be more transparent in the handling of discrepancies and communicate effectively with both the beneficiary and the applicant. This helped in resolving the issues more efficiently. The standard for examination. UCP 600 reinforced the principles that banks were only required to examine documents on their face value and not obligated to verify the accuracy of the content. What was the implication? This principle emphasized the need for banks to focus on the form and content of the documents rather than engaging in detailed content verification. It simplified the examination process. The transport documents, UCP 600 provided detailed rules regarding various transport documents, including the bills of lading, airway bills, and other documents commonly used in the international trade. Implications for the banks were the banks needed to have a deep understanding of the different type of transport documents and the compliance with UCP 600 requirements. This knowledge was crucial for accurate document examination. The time frames were also fixed. So the change was UCP 600 established special time frames for banks to act upon the presentation of documents, ensuring a more efficient and timely process. The implication, banks needed to adhere to the prescribed time frames for examining documents and taking necessary actions, which helped in expediting the transaction process. The force majeure, an act of God. The change was UCP 600 addressed situations where a party may be unable to perform its obligations due to unforeseen circumstances beyond its control. The implications that happened was the banks needed to consider how force majeure events might impact the letter of credit transaction and have procedures in place for handling such situations. Overall, UCP 600 aimed to modernize and streamline the process of using letter of credit in international trade. Banks needed to familiarize themselves with these changes and adjust their procedures and systems accordingly to ensure compliance and efficiency in their letter of credit transactions. In short, what were the things that happened? Electronic communications were used securely. The examination of documents were done carefully, which streamlined the process and reduced potential delays. The This also helped in resolving issues more efficiently. It also simplified the examination process. This knowledge was crucial for accurate document examination, and the time frames were set, and all these things were helping the efficiency in the letter of credit transactions. So let's know what are the liabilities, responsibilities, and rights of the parties in a letter of credit. The applicant. The applicant of the LC must give complete and precise instructions for issuance of letter of credit and any amendment thereof. The LC must not include excessive details or give any reference of credit previously issued to avoid any confusion or misunderstanding. The applicant should indemnify the banks against any obligations imposed by foreign laws. The issuing bank. Issuing bank is a party acting on behalf of the buyer or the applicant, the import, and should therefore ensure itself about the credit worthiness of the applicant. The issuing bank gives a definite undertaking to make payment in case of sight, accept and pay on maturity in case of the usance LC. Deferred payment authorize bank to negotiate and to reimburse the negotiating bank, provided that the stipulated documents are presented under the letter of credit. The letter of credit or amendment, that which is issued, must be precise, and there should be no ambiguity in the instructions and the details mentioned in the letter of credit. So it is the responsibility of the issuing bank to examine the documents with reasonable care and determine by international standards whether the documents appear on the face to be complying the terms of the credit. If it wishes to refuse the documents, it would do so within 5 banking days following the date of receipt of documents. The issuing bank solely on its own judgment can approach the applicant for waiver of the discrepancy. What is an advising bank? What are their liabilities and responsibilities? The advising bank has the option to choose as to whether it wishes to advise a letter of credit or not. If it agrees to advise the LC, then it must do so by taking reasonable care in checking the authenticity of the credit. In case it decides not to advise the LC, then it must inform the issuing bank immediately. If the advising bank is unable to establish the authenticity of an LC, it must immediately inform the issuing bank and also inform the beneficiary about the same. What is a confirming bank and what are their responsibilities and what are their rights? A confirming bank gives a definite undertaking in addition to that of a issuing bank at the request of the issuing bank to make payment on presentation of documents as per the terms and conditions of the LC. The confirming bank or the advising bank and the nominated bank can all be the same at one time. In case it does not agree to add its confirmation, it must inform the issuing bank without any delay so that it may also choose to advise amendments without adding its confirmation. However, in such cases also, intimation must be sent to the issuing bank and the beneficiary. Coming to the next slide, we will be going through the negotiating bank. It is the responsibility of the negotiating bank or the nominated bank to examine the documents which, as per the UCP or the International Standard Banking Practice, what we shortly call as ISBP, the International Standard Banking Practice, and take a decision to negotiate the documents only if they appear on their face to be in compliance with the terms and conditions of the letter of credit. What are the liabilities and rights of a reimbursing bank? The reimbursing bank deals with bank to bank reimbursement clause. Reimbursing bank shall reimburse the claiming bank the amount of claim lodged, subject to the condition that it has received reimbursement authorization. Stop. It has received reimbursement authorization from the issuing bank and has accepted the same. The reimbursements and all the parties concerned are bound to be uniform rules for bank to bank reimbursements, that which is URR 725. What is it? It's the uniform rules for bank to bank reimbursements. We will be going to this section in the later part of our video. We will be discussing about URR 725. Beneficiary, or called as an exporter or the supplier, he has various rights and responsibilities under the letter of credit transactions. A beneficiary can in no case avail himself of the contractual relationship between the banks or between the applicant and the issuing bank. So he can in no way go in check of the contractual relations between the banks or between the bank and the applicant. What are the protection to banks? Banks do not assume any responsibility for genuineness of the documents submitted or any discretion in the contents mentioned in the document. Banks are also not responsible for any loss arising due to delay in transmission or loss of messages, documents, or telecommunication. No responsibility is taken by the banks for errors in translation or interpretation of the technical terms. Banks also do not take responsibility for any loss arising due to the close of their business by the act of God, commotions, civil riots, flood, or any other causes beyond their control. Banks do not take any responsibility for the acts of the correspondent banks as well, whether the bank was chosen by the applicant or by itself. The applicant is liable to pay the charge. If the charges were on account of the third party and could not be collected, further the applicant is liable for any accident or losses occurred due to the foreign loss. These are all mentioned in different articles of UCP 600. Any questions regarding this video or related to this video, please do update them in the comment section. Do like, share, and subscribe our channel, The Brilliant Bankers. This is Nishant signing off. Have a great day.